All right, you still there?
I am. I'm here.
All right.
Yes, sir. How you expect to be great, but your hustle don't match. Listen. I hustle over time, attempt to push the culture forward. This that real shit. Make a meal with that little gift. Everybody on a hustle, we can make a real shift. So keep your head up, youngin', and just keep on moving. And if you ain't hustling, then I don't know what you're doing. The time is now. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Yeah, I gotta write my story. No, you can't have my glory.
10 seconds.
I'm taking all that's holy. Unapologetic.
Hey, yo, man, we back at it. It's Saturday. It's your boy, man, Marcus Stone, aka Hustle. This is the Unapologetic Hustle, man. We coming to you live from Globe Life Park, powered by Fishbowl Radio Network and Bashani Radio app, man. And I gotta say, it's been interesting thus far, and we can't let the hustle stop. You know that. So without further ado, man, my guest today is none other than Miss Mary Tobin. She is the executive director of the Eastern region for the Mission Continues. This brilliant young lady, I had the privilege of serving with overseas, doing our thing, and what I like the most about this individual is the fact that she stayed true to who she is, and she's an individual that's for the people, and everything that she does exudes that. Every decision, every entity that she's worked for has been about veterans and people, about the community. And those that have followed know that I continue to talk about being that change, and she has done that time over and time again. And I just want to jump in, and we're gonna go ahead and get going. Miss Mary Tobin, welcome to the hustle.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, right. You've been making your moves, and I've been watching. I'm like, ooh, she doing this, she doing that. But I finally got you here on the hustle for sure. So I like to start off every show with giving my guests some words, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind when you hear it. All right?
Okay.
Unapologetic.
Grind.
Hustle.
Every day.
Legacy.
Always.
Ooh, I like. We're gonna touch on that one. We're gonna touch on that one.
I like that game.
Man, all right. Final one. All right. Logic.
Illogical.
Illogical logic. That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. Okay, so for those that don't know Mary Tobin, let's give them some insight, because I mean, I could have gone through your bio. That would have took an hour in itself, because you've done so much. But I want them to hear it from your vantage point, because you convey it so well. And I wouldn't do it any justice. So give us an insight. Who is Mary Tobin?
Mary Tobin is a person who is crazy enough to believe that she can change the world. So that's first. Two, I am unapologetically from the undisputed king of cities, ATL, Georgia. So I represent.
All right.
I represent my city to the core. Living Pepper Wings, Atlanta Falcons, all of that. That's me. Love my city. Everything that I am, I owe to my city. The grit, the grind, the hustle, the pride in being Black, the history associated with this city. I grew up seeing two sides of the world, right? One where, I have the MLKs in my purview, and I know to fight for my people. And then the other is where I grew up poor. And so I'm growing up like in the mud, learning how to grind for the things that I want and how to fight for the things that I want. So I'm a fighter. And you can see that in everything that I do in my life. I went to the military when I was 17, went to West Point, which was bold in of itself, right?
Right.
To leave Atlanta and go to the United States Military Academy and to become an officer in the Army, and to be bold enough to think I could be half of a good officer even in combat, and to learn all of those really, really hard lessons about being a woman in a male unit, being a Black officer in a majority officer unit, and just being a darn good leader, right? So I would say that all of those hardships and that grinding have created a leader. I am a leader. I often say I'm a leader's leader, that I get most joy from mentoring, developing, and coaching other leaders who will go out and change the world. And I think that's why I love when you ask me about the word legacy, because it's always, we need to always be thinking about what are we leaving behind?
Right.
Will it be better than when I found it? So I am crazy. I'm unapologetic. I represent, and I'm a leader's leader. That's who Mary Tobin is.
Man, look, I can say more than that because that's just from your vantage point. But I'm not even gonna touch. We're not even gonna touch on the ATL stuff because you got people in the studio popping their collars and stuff. I'm like, oh, here we go. You know, you look. You see the microphone is black and gold all day long. Come on now.
Oh God, here we go.
Right. No, but you know, you spoke on ATL, and one thing that I was proud that you received was the commemoration from the NFL and your hometown Atlanta Falcons, and I was like, yo, that's big. Even somebody that don't like the Falcons, you know, when those Sundays come, I had to tip my hat off, man, because that was big and definitely deserving for an individual such as yourself, and I couldn't be more proud to see you receive that. I'm sure you got it in the frame, posted up somewhere. Of course.
Like you could have my shoe collection before you have my letter from Matt Ryan. What are you talking about? I will fight over that.
What? Yeah, that's awesome. But so you touched on a lot of things that I wanna get into when you were telling individuals who Mary Tobin is. You talked about your decision to go to West Point. You talked about being a female in a male unit, being a leader, being a Black female in that environment as well. And those things continue to not beat us down, but you continue to shine a light on those issues throughout the organizations that I've seen you involved with. And then things that you just do in the community. So I wanna touch on that because I want individuals to understand that they can do it too. And it takes a mindset in order to make those things happen, to push forward. But you're somebody that I have seen and that I know that has done it and been an example of what that looks like and where you can go. You know, hopefully one day I get to sit on that CNN camera like you did, and I'm striving to I'm following Mary in her footsteps. Mary had a little lamb. I'm the lamb. Here we go. So
you're well on your way, brother. You're well on your way.
But I want to touch on those things because I think that is definitely relevant. But people want to know how they go about doing it and things that, some of the pitfalls that you may have encountered, and where your mindset took you to push you beyond what you were faced with at that point in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I try to follow kind of three principles, I think. One is be the best at what you do, right? And the best doesn't mean you don't make any mistakes and you don't have any flaws, but you need to try to learn your craft, to hone your craft, to always keep becoming better at it. Be an expert at what you do so that it doesn't matter what stage you step on, what environment you go into, what organization you're called to lead in. The one thing you can be very confident about is that you know your stuff, right? No one can ever question you on that. And I think, especially as a minority woman, you can go into majority environments or environments that are predominantly white, and something happens called the imposter syndrome, where even though you are dope as all get out, you walk into this environment and you start to question, how did I get here?
Absolutely.
Do I even belong here? Like, did somebody make a mistake and I accidentally got in? But if you know your stuff, right, you can begin to defeat that, beat that back. so that you can truly shine as the person that you've been created to be, right? So that's one. Be dope at what you do and never stop being dope at what you do. And the minute that you think that you've made it and you don't have anything else to learn, then you need to step aside, because I guarantee you there's somebody coming behind you who's doper than you, right? And so that's like just facts, that there's always somebody on your heels, but you can only be you, right? So make sure that you know your stuff. I think the second principle is it's amazing what we can accomplish when we don't care who gets the credit. Right. So when I go into environments, even if I am, the boss or whatever you want to call it, my sole goal is to make sure that everyone succeeds. Everyone succeeds. Everyone becomes better because of my leadership. That there's a project, if a project happens, everyone gets the credit.
Right.
If there's an opportunity for someone to shine or to get recognition that they haven't gotten before, I make sure that that happens. Because if the unit or the organization succeeds, then I succeed as a leader. And then I want to say, lastly, integrity is everything. It's all you have. Your word is all you have. So the moment you decide that your integrity is negotiable, or that I can lie about this thing or cut a corner around that thing, then you have just began to go down a very, very dangerous trail, right? A trail that I say is far away from excellence, but a trail that negotiates your reputation, it negotiates your legacy, and it negotiates your ability to succeed. So if you're a person who's dope at what you do and you never stop learning, if you're a person who elevates others and always looks to make your organization better than you found it, and anytime you open your mouth, that is exactly what it is, and no one ever has to question what you said, then that is how you become excellent at what you do. And that is how I began to overcome some of the systemic barriers, things like racism and sexism, and everywhere I went.
Right.
Because even if you didn't like the fact that I had ovaries, or you didn't like the fact that I wore braids and cornrows in my head and I'm a sister girl, right? Even if you didn't like that, you could not argue that I was damn good at my job. That's what you couldn't argue. You couldn't argue that I wouldn't show up to work first and leave last. You couldn't argue that what I said was what I meant and it was the truth. You couldn't argue with that. And so after a while, you have to decide if you want to have anything to do with me, if you want to work with me. And then after a while, you realize if you don't, that's actually your problem. And that's a character flaw, because us working together is better for the team, is better for the unit, right? So, when I just remain committed to those three principles, then it's not that I ignored the barriers that were present. It was, I made it really, really hard for you not to like me.
Absolutely.
And I made it hard, and I made you focus on the gifts and the talents and the valuable traits that I bring to the organization. And that's, that I think that's why I like, the name of your podcast so much, right? Because you can be unapologetic in your greatness, when you are truly great.
Absolutely.
You can't be sorry and then be unapologetic. You got to pick a struggle.
You got to pick one. You have to pick one. Either do you want to live in your nightmare, or you want to create your dream.
Oh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
I'm writing that down.
Look, I'm supposed to be learning from you today. But I mean, it's real, because when you think about it, if you're apologetic in how you're going about your day, and I always phrase this, I'm not talking about negativity, right? I'm saying you have to be unapologetic in who you are about being that positive change. So if you're always second guessing who you actually are and where you see yourself going, then it contradicts what you're doing, right? Because you're always following where the wind blows you, right? Absolutely. Somebody said I didn't do this well. Well, I need to go work on that because such and such said this. Well, it's not you, Right. I was speaking with a friend a couple days ago, and I was like, you have to think about it from the principle of a seed, right? A seed only knows to be what a seed actually is, right? And it's the environment that actually changes what that seed becomes as it continues to grow, right? But what is affected is when that seed starts to sprout, and the outside environment tends to mess it up and blows the leaves off, or you can't turn a watermelon seed into an orange seed. right? But we don't focus enough on the roots that are grounded in that soil for us to even get beyond the ground, right? So that's the piece that I want people, and I try to get people to focus on. What are the roots of you, right? Because the stronger your roots are, then you're more rooted into who you are, so you can be the best you, and then that positive change can happen in our communities. But we tend to follow what society labels us as, we fall subjective to it, right? And it hinders us in the aspect that unapologetic is a term that is looked at as negatively.
Yeah.
When in actuality, I view it as positive. I'm unapologetic with who I am. I am striving to be the best me possible so that my legacy in me being unapologetic lives on, right? In the fact of my kids, my community, those that I surround myself with, so on and so forth, so that we can continue to see these barriers and paradigms shift for the better.
Yeah. No, I think unapologetic speaks to who you really are, right? So I believe everyone is born with purpose, right?
Absolutely.
And only you can be you. Only you can add the flavor to this earth and to this world that you're created to add, right? No one else can beat you being you. So when you find out who it is you are, you find out what your roots are, and your roots are dope, right? You are an artist, you are creative, you are a thinker, you are a speaker, all those things, right? Once you find that out, you should not apologize for that ever. And you should always bring that to wherever you are, whatever environment you are in. And that's why I love that you said, like, you keep reminding people that it is not negativity, it is identity.
Absolutely.
Unapologetic is identity. Like, I'm
that's it.
I know who I am.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm going to tell you who I am, and I'm going to be who I am no matter where I'm planted, right? Because I work too hard to figure this out. So you're going to deal. And how you should deal is you should be blessed, right? Like,
absolutely.
Because this whole experiment of creation is, how do we find out who we are? And then when we find out who we are, how do we bless others around us, right? And how do we leave a legacy of greatness, right? When we when we transition on, but even more so, right? Like, how much did I get in touch with who I am, right? Because that, brother, I'm a Christian.
Absolutely.
At the essence, I'm a Christian, but I cuss a little. But at the essence of who I am is, the day that I find out who I truly am, I feel like that is the day that I truly reflect the glory of God. Right? When he thought of me, before my parents thought of me,
right,
he had something in mind.
Right.
So every day I'm striving to become that something in mind. And when I become that something in mind, then not only is that glorifying God, but now it's like everybody around me is getting blessed. Right. And hopefully that sets off, that it's like pushing down a set of dominoes, right? Like, I get it, then you get it, and then they get it. And when we all get it, that's what gives me the boldness, right? To go into an environment and say, nah, you're not going to treat me bad, because I know who I am.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not going to lower my identity to match how you think of me. I'm going to force you to raise your level up, and your level of thinking, and your level of perception around who I am. So that's why I can fight for our people in environments that don't historically fight for us, because I know who I am.
Absolutely.
So I can't forget that. Right. So that's where I want to say, that's where my roots come from. And that's why, when I talk about growing up in the shadow of MLK, man, you can't grow up around all these black folks who say we deserve equality, and we are great, and we're wonderful, and we are unique. You can't grow up around all these folks and not start to believe it.
Absolutely.
I messed around and started to believe it.
Rightfully so. And we'll definitely touch on that too as well. But hey, for those of you just tuning in, it's your boy Marcus Stone, aka Hustle, man. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Park, powered by Fishbowl Radio Network and Bashani Radio app. And my guest today is none other than Miss Mary Tobin. a dear friend of mine who is a delight to speak with, and just to hear her speak about her time and her growth, to be who she is. But Mary, look, I want to touch back on something that we mentioned. It's like you, it's hard when you identify your why and your purpose, right? Why would you not edify what your purpose is to align yourself with what somebody think your purpose is?
My goodness. One, I think because we are conditioned. I would say taught, but I wouldn't say that. I don't think anyone intentionally teaches us to do this, but I think we are conditioned, especially in society, to define the value of us, of our work, who we are, what we do by others, right? So, I work in the nonprofit sector. We don't get paid a lot of money. Newsflash.
Right.
We do it. We work in the nonprofit sector because a lot of us feel called to do so. A lot of us, that aligns with our passion. Sometimes it aligns with our trauma, right? So I work to fight poverty because I was poor and I don't want to see anybody else be poor, right?
Absolutely.
But ultimately, you're not working in the nonprofit sector to get rich. You're working in the nonprofit sector to make a change. But if I looked around me, right, I got some dope friends. I promise you, like they are crazy dope, like businessmen and women, leaders in their industries. They own their own multi-million-dollar organizations and firms. And if I looked at their dopeness and compared it to my dopeness, I would start to think, you know what, maybe I'm missing out, or maybe I'm coming up short, or maybe I'm not doing something right? Because surely if I was doing the right thing and if I was like really striving for greatness, that I would be going on trips to the south of France and I would be driving, a G-Wagon, and I wouldn't be worried about finances, every month. I wouldn't have those worries. So it is the I want to say it is the threat of comparison, right? That if I take my eyes off of the goals and objectives and the things that are unique to who I am, the things that I can accomplish in the world, and I start to focus on what others are doing, I can easily swerve the lane, right? I can easily believe that, you know what, I'm not as dope as I think I am, right? If I'm, I have a beautiful goddaughter who literally since she was 5 years old, she's an artist. And I mean, not the, where parents brag on their kids drawing something and the drawing's really crappy, but you just say, ooh, look at my baby.
You're right.
No, I mean, the anime sketches, the sculpting, the painting that she does, she's always been an artist. But me, I grew up hardcore. You going to college, you studying, you're becoming a lawyer, a doctor.
Something,
You're going to West Point, you're following me, something like that. And for the first couple of years of me kind of, being in her life and raising her, I'm trying to make her fit into a mold of what I believe success is. Meanwhile, this baby is fighting tooth and nail against me to be her. And about the age of 12, I said, why haven't I allowed my mind to see my baby as the next Van Gogh or Georgia O'Keeffe?
Don't have to work as hard
either. I
either.
allow my mind to see greatness in what I can already tell is her calling. Right. I'm forcing her out of her calling because of my insecurities and my fears that she'll grow up and won't be nothing. She ain't gonna make no money, because that's what I've been taught. Right. So the minute I freed myself of any notions or misconceptions that she needs to be a thing, then this young lady began to flourish. So now instead of me, hey baby girl, do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a teacher? You want to be a doctor? It's let's talk about what colleges or schools can help continue to build your skills as an artist once you graduate from high school. And the amount of research that this young lady does, that she puts into thinking through that, like how it aligns with her skills and her talents. Right. I'm thinking to myself, I could have been one of those people that crushed her goals and her dreams because I was trying to box her in. So I think it starts early, brother.
Awesome.
I think it starts early. And I don't think parents and mentors mean any harm, but
You're just not aware.
we often don't see ourselves and we don't see each other the way God sees us. And imagine if we just let people just be and let God do the work. Man, it
would change everything. You know what I mean? It would
change everything.
But at the same time, I think that depends on the individual as well. You know what I mean? And I can speak from personal experience, the fact that I was told early on that I should be a motivational speaker. I should do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? But I was looking to fit myself into what the individuals that I looked up to. Like, man, I can't do that. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to go stand in front of a crowd and what do I have to say?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to come and listen to me? But
right.
As the age old adage said, is that hindsight is 20/20. You know, I'm not on a physical stage speaking about positive things and motivating people to do what they are called to do, their purpose, but I still have that stage now, right? And it wasn't until I realized it myself to you have to be unapologetic about who you are. Period. You know what you want for yourself. The dreams. Only you have those dreams, right? Those dreams are given to you. It's not like you have somebody can tap into your mind and know what you're dreaming when you're sleeping. You know what I mean? Like they're given to you, and they're given to you for that reason and that purpose. So it's on you to take action to bring that stuff to fruition. One, because it's your calling. Two, it was given to you for a reason, right? There's a message in all of it, and it's about how you take that information and go forward. Every nightmare is not necessarily a nightmare when you put things in action, right? It's just to lighten or alarm the aspect that, hey, this is a serious matter, right? You need to get going, or you will, you may see the downfall from not moving hastily. So I think it is twofold in a sense to perspective, where that individual has to realize what their purpose is. So you have to look inward a lot more than you look outward, because it can change the dynamic as well. Yeah,
there was a rapper, Christian rapper by the name of The Truth, and he had a song years ago that basically talked about finding your purpose.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he says, and I'm going to paraphrase it badly, but he says the things that frustrate you the most, the things that you're drawn to, that get your attention the most, like those are breadcrumbs in finding your purpose.
Right.
So if this thing always gets on my nerve, like, oh, why are things like this? Like, write that down. That's a breadcrumb.
Right.
If there's something that always like punctures your heart, like, the minute you hear of that thing, it evokes emotion, right? Write that down. That's a breadcrumb. The thing that you get super duper passionate about, right? Like, you can hear the passion in my voice because I love this. I love these types of conversations. Write it down, Mary. That's a breadcrumb, right? And so to your point, right, it's the inward work is really thinking about, like, what are the things that I've always been interested in? What are the things that have always made me angry? Like, why can't we solve that problem? What are the things that, like, bring me the most joy? I instantly smile when I think of that, or I see that, or I encounter that. What are the things that, to your point, that I dream about over and over and over again? And even though I don't know how I'm going to become that thing, I keep dreaming or thinking about that thing, right?
Absolutely.
That's a breadcrumb. Write it down. Because if you pursue a thing that is not aligned with who you truly are, you're going to one day learn to resent it. Like, man, why am I doing this thing, right? And we have so many people out there in the world who are doing things just to make it, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We got to make it. We got to eat.
Yeah.
But I think people like you and people like me have to continue to tell everyone else that there's a better way, that there's a better life.
Absolutely.
And you can achieve that.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from being great but you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, if you're the first person that will put doubt in your mind before others do.
100%.
So, you have to start with you. You have to, and I speak on mindset so much because for me, it starts with the mind. You give yourself the thought that I am not as good, or I am not as great, or I can never be X, Y, and Z. Well, no, you're not supposed to be X, Y, and Z. You're supposed to be you. You be the best you, and by you doing that, you can be above them. You're killing the platform or the level of your greatness by comparing, for one, the others. And there's nothing wrong with studying the process that it took for them to get where they are.
Right.
But you have to understand that process was crafted for them. It was their journey, their path, right?
Yes.
So you learn from what they faced, and oftentimes you have to create your own. Even though the categories or the end goal may be similar, but you have to go through your own tests, you have to go through your own trials in order for you to create and be the best you possible. That's what the hustle piece of unapologetic hustle is, right? You have to identify what your purpose is, put forth the action, right? Activating that. But you have to have the mindset in order to sustain it, because it's not going to be easy. It's your road that you're traveling, but it will never be easy, and it's not supposed to be, because you're supposed to. We can't go and just make a diamond, right?
Yeah.
Diamonds have to come through immense pressure, time, and effort, and then even once a diamond is formed, somebody has to go through the extent of digging, finding, safeguarding, and extracting what that diamond is, right? That's the life cycle, right? In order for somebody to say, oh, well, it's worth X, Y, and Z. Well, diamonds, you're worth what you're worth, right? But you have to understand what your purpose is in order to activate any hustle, and change the community. So, man, it starts with the mindset. I'm a firm believer of that.
100%. There's I visited the Facebook headquarters some years ago. It was a part of a women veterans program. And the program was held in the room where Facebook has hackathons, right? So whenever they add new functionality to Facebook, right, they change up the buttons, how it looks, all those things. They bring their really smart coders into a room, and they'll lock them in that room for like 12, 18, 24 hours, right? Just hacking away, right? Literally hacking away at different courses of action. Change the button here, move it there, add this, whatever. And then that's how they come up with their ideas, right? So they're in this room, and there's food and, music, and it's just, it is just literally a room where ideas are flowing and creativity is happening. I brought that up to say that there's this huge sign, and I took a picture of it, and I've said it ever since I've seen it. Huge sign on the wall, and it says "Fail Forward," and I loved it.
Yeah,
I said, that's it, because to your point, right? In order to truly achieve greatness, to achieve a goal, you have to be comfortable with the fact that you will fail.
Right.
But that's not the end of the story, right? So Einstein, I'm going to mess up the quote, but Einstein said he failed this many times at a thing. But he failed that many times to get to the answer, the one answer, and all he needed was that one answer.
Yeah.
But to your point, if you are not willing to go through, right, the bumps in the road, the bruises, the failures, the heartache, and the tears, then you won't achieve your true greatness, right? Because greatness is born out of not only success, but pain as well, and the lessons that you learn from that, because that is your legacy.
Absolutely.
Like, so it's not just the good stuff that I'm leaving behind, but it's the lessons.
Yeah.
That's why I come out of the gate swinging with saying, listen, be good at what you do, be dope, and don't let anybody question you on that, because I have been in situations where I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
And I had a title and I had a role, and I was half it. halving it, right? Like I was just, hey, I'm a West Pointer,
Right.
black. I'm a black woman, represent, right?
trying to use the clout. Yeah.
No, Mary, you got to actually be a good officer. Like, stop playing.
Right.
Like, you have to know your weapon systems. You have to know your job. You have to know, those regulations. Like, stop playing.
Right.
And step your game up, right? And so, but very few people will tell you that. Like, I'll tell all my mentees, like, stop playing. You can even schedule a meeting with me correctly.
Man.
Like, so I know what you're doing on the job. So let's talk about what excellence is. And my mentors don't let up off of me either.
Yeah.
They'll tell me in a minute, Mary, you procrastinate. You're not getting it done, right? So to be able to hear even that, right, the critique, right, where somebody is like pushing you to be better, that's a part of the journey too. It's not enough to just be like, I'm great, I know my purpose. It's not even enough to be like, okay, I grind. Because if you stay up all night long working on a project, but that project is trash, then what did you just do?
Yeah, you wasted time.
I grind. No, actually you actually just, collect trash is what you do. Yeah. Right? But being able to take someone hearing that and saying, you can be better. Right. You can do better. I know better is in you. That's rough. It's rough, but it's worth it. And to your point, it is a part of the hustle. The hustle is that too, is getting better, even as you work towards your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think words are powerful, right? Because the words that you hear often dictate, how your emotions and everything come into play. So when people hear fail, it's often brought with, I've lost. I have not succeeded. I have not met what needs to happen. Well, I'm a firm believer that you have to flip everything on its head, right? Especially when it comes to negativity. Failure doesn't mean loss. Failure, from my vantage point, from the mind of hustle, is failure is a lesson. What did you learn? What did you learn in that instance that you will not do, or you can do better in order to get it right the next time? Right. So in every failure, there's a lesson, and that's the key thing. You have to learn what the lessons are in order to get better, right? Because we don't want to run around here aimlessly, exercising the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? Yeah. We have to identify what the changes are, put some thought into what we can do better, and then activate that aspect, right? That's how, the greats have done it. That's why Einstein went through the years that he went through to come up with E = MC squared. Now you got people, going through their things trying to detest what that did, but it remains relevant till this day. That's why Apple is Apple,
Right, 100%. I mean, you have to your point though, you have to seek out that understanding too, right?
Absolutely.
Of the best lessons my mentor taught me is like, Mary, when you apply for a job and you don't get the job, not only send a follow-up email saying thank you for the opportunity, but ask them, what could you have done better?
Right.
Oh, that changed everything for me.
Right.
What could you have done better? Sometimes we don't seek out the critique. And then we rest in, I don't know why I didn't get it. I don't know why that didn't happen. Oh, they just some haters.
Right.
No. They could be haters. They really could. Let me not say that, because there are some haters out there, right? But what if you created a habit, a lifestyle habit of seeking out those lessons learned, seeking out ways to be better, right? Now, like the byproduct of that is actually humility, right?
Absolutely.
You become more humble as a leader, and that translates over to how you treat other people too, those that you lead, right? So if you are constantly believing, knowing, thinking, man, what ways can I do this better? Then the way you treat your people changes as well. And if you're a business owner, the way you treat your customers changes as well, right? So you don't go on thinking that the product that you produced a year ago is still the same dopeness that it needs to be today. Now, how can I deliver better to my customer? How can I deliver a better product? Is it packaging? Is it what it provides to people? Is it marketing? Is it all those things, right? Always seeking to be better. That is a way of thinking. That's a mindset.
Yeah.
That is a mindset. Yeah. And oftentimes, and you can see it from, I love it. You can see it from the iPhone, right? oftentimes the iPhone literally changes like the placement of the camera on the phone. And folks will literally go out and pay $1,100 more every 18 months
for the placement.
Because for the placement of a camera on the phone.
Right.
But iPhone has created, get this, an environment of continuous process improvement.
Right.
You know that every 18 months, Apple is seeking to improve upon the product that they just made to produce a better product for the customers that it serves.
Facts. No, that's real.
So iPhone literally is built around the idea that we will continuously outdo ourselves, outproduce ourselves, create a different or a better product. And that's how we are addicted, right? We are addicted to this product. Everything I own is Apple. What if I took that mindset and applied it to myself? That I'm only as good as my last success.
Yeah.
What am I going to make myself better?
Yeah, you always have a goal to achieve. Yeah. You always have something to push forward with, to strive towards. And that's another thing that people get comfortable and complacent. They achieve a goal and then stop. And then wonder why they fell off or they're no longer relevant or whatever the case may be. It's like, how do you get to the mountaintop and stop? So you got up there and you brought no food, you brought nothing to entertain yourself. You did nothing. So now you got to go right back down the mountain to climb it again. So no, it's okay, I get to the mountaintop. Oh, now I see a taller mountain. Let me have the tools to build a bridge or a swing or whatever to get to that one. How do I remain relevant as the times change? It amazes me that you just talked about how Apple built a model for continuous improvement, right? And another individual, or another organization that does it is Chick-fil-A. Theirs is built around service, right? You can see a Chick-fil-A line wrapped around the building, and my family and I, we call it the trap. That's that's the one trap house you're gonna sit in line and you don't have to worry about the police coming to you. It is what it is. It's the trap. So but they built that model around service, right? Because you're now waiting just to hear what the catchphrase that they say at the end when you get your bag. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's built around. But I often say that your purpose and your why is not for you. Your purpose and your why is for service. Your purpose is your service, right? You can't be the best you to be the best, to hold it in, right? It's not for you to write the book and then never share it. What you gain from you learning and growing and evolving is for you to share to others, because you may be the fertilizer somebody needs to be the next Elon Musk, right? You may be the water that somebody needs to be the next Barack Obama, right? Your purpose and your lessons in life often become fertilizer and nutrients for somebody else to achieve their best selves. So if I hold in what I hold, then I am not fulfilling my purpose in the service aspect of being unapologetic and hustling. Right. Yeah. It's an outward expression 100%. But it leaves the legacy. So now, God rest his soul, R.I.P. Kobe, the impact that Kobe had on the world, a lot of people didn't realize it until he was gone. Right. The world shut down. Yeah. Kobe died, then we had COVID.
Yeah. I would submit to you that in life or death, you will fulfill your purpose. Yes. So even if you don't fulfill your purpose while you're alive, your death will serve as a warning to those who are still living. It will serve as an example. Absolutely. It will teach a lesson. The key, though, is you want to be able to not only, because it speaks to what I said earlier, and this is what I'm beginning to learn. This is what I wrestle with every day, right? Because I feel like I'm called to a life of service. But then sometimes I get salty. right? Because let's go real talk. I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 this past July. I'm not married, and I don't have any biological children. I've worked my entire life as a public servant. I started getting a little salty,
Right.
like a few weeks ago. Like, Lord, I mean, I know I've done some good stuff, and people tell me I've done some good, and I feel like I'm on the right track. But I know you don't mean for my life to be raggedy too. Like, I wanna celebrate it.
Yeah.
Netflix and chill, and I wanna, all the things. I want to be able to leave something to someone that carries my name or my seed. I want that, right?
Absolutely.
But I don't have. So if you're not careful, if we center our purpose around just service to others, we can become salty and resentful of the personal impact that pursuing your purpose has, right? So to your point, you were talking about writing a book.
Yeah.
The process of writing a book can, if you let it, can heal your trauma. You can actually end up being a better person at the conclusion of writing your book, like a better person, just able to communicate more. You don't hurt as much. You forgive somebody that you held on to resentment your entire life, or you're more clear about the world, and you release this book that just changes the world. So I'm sharing with you
we're gonna speak that.
real time revelation, right? Like, Mary, it's your bad if your whole life is just other people, because God didn't give you your purpose and your giftings and your callings just so that you can pour it out and you never reap the benefits, right?
Of it, yeah.
Here goes my churchiness coming out of me. The Bible says that God would have us to prosper even as our soul prospers, right? So like, hey, if we are truly like tapping into our purpose and who we are, we're gonna find like there's gonna be like this twofold blessing, right? Where, hey, my bank account gonna be all right, my family gonna be all right, and those around me are gonna be blessed, right? And I think too much of one thing sets it off balance and creates resentment if we're not careful. Yeah, I think if it's too much on the personal side, it creates, a sense of not being content and fulfilled, right? That's how you can look at folks that got everything in the world and go, man, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Like, what you complaining for? And then you got the folks, who will spend their whole lives in service. You can't see me, but I'm like pointing at me. And then it's going like, man, my personal life is trash. So, I am saying this, publicly because I'm growing in this area, right? Where, man, Mary, there is a better way. So pursue it, even as you pursue greatness, right? Pursue what that looks like.
Right. Yeah, I had a conversation. It's probably been about 3 weeks with a friend of mine, and the conversation was, it's one thing to build, it's one thing to hustle, it's one thing to strive to have all of these things, but again, there's something about having hindsight, right? If you can't reflect on building in the moment, then once you achieve the goal, the moment would have surpassed. So as you're building, you have to remain in the moment of what you're building, right? Because it's about the perception. And actually yesterday I was talking with my father-in-law, and he is a entrepreneur mind in his own right. And he was telling me about a time as to where he was like, I can take the kids to the pool, bring my computer, I can knock out something, so on and so forth. But the conversation came up where his younger daughter mentions like, Dad, can you swim? And it brought him back to that time to where it's like, yeah, I used to take y'all to the pool all the time. But they never recall him actually being in the pool, because he saw it as a way of, hey, they can go swimming. I've taught them how to swim, but I can knock out X, Y, and Z because I'm providing a way for the family to eat and survive, right? But hindsight is 20/20. Now it's like, the kids are asking him, Dad, you know how to swim? Well, yeah, he does, but they never saw him swim. Right. Because he wasn't in the moment with them at that point in time for them to have that memory, have that information and those lessons that he is capable of doing those things. So you have to, even though that, yes, I say activate your hustle, discipline over distractions, all of that stuff, but you have to live in the moment. The
Yeah.
moment now has to be relevant, or the future will be non-existent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yo, hey, for those of you just tuning in, we got a lot of people tuning in. It's your boy Marcus Stone, aka Hustle, man. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Park. We're powered by Fishbowl Radio Network and Bashani Radio app. My guest today is none other than Miss Mary Tobin, and we've been having, a blast with this convo. I've been enjoying this one. So, but yo, we're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back, man, we're gonna hit the second hour with Miss Mary Tobin. Stay tuned, stay locked on Unapologetic Hustle. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Cheryl, host of the Cheryl Boggs Show, Resting in His Word, broadcasting live each week on Mondays from 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time from FBRN Studios at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Log on to hear from gospel recording artists, authors, segments, and most of all, finding rest in the Word of the Lord.
Yep, I can hear you.
Be sure to log on each week on Mondays from 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to catch the Cheryl Boggs Show,
Okay.
Resting in His Word
on FishbowlRadioNetwork.com.
Jump in.
Okay.
Fishbowl Radio Network has your cure for the summertime blues
Okay.
with our new Kids Show experience, a fun and creative way for parents to interact with their children. Your kids can become radio hosts for a day and have their show aired over the largest internet radio platform in the world, right here at our beautiful facility at Globe Life Park, where the Rangers play. Spots are limited,
Okay.
so call us now at 817-633-4880 to secure yours. The Kids Show experience. Jump in.
Sounds good.
On September 11th, 2001, nearly 3,000 Americans lost their lives, including hundreds of first responders who stepped up when our country needed them the most. We're seeing that same bravery from our frontline workers who risked their lives battling an invisible enemy. The sense of unity displayed in the days following 9/11 and during our current crisis exemplifies the strength of our national character and inspires us to honor the legacy of those lost, as well as those who still lead the charge.
Hello, we are It's About the Kids Incorporated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates out of Dallas, Texas.
Our mission is to focus on the kids of today who will become the youth of tomorrow and the adult of the future. Today, tomorrow, the future.
Empowering the community one family at a time.
You can reach us at all social media platforms at It's About the Kids or online at www.itsaboutthekids.org.
Where we mentor a child, save a life.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
FBRN.US. Fishbowl Radio Network. Jump in.
Hate it when I'm feeling stagnated. Gotta learn to leave the past behind. My mind is really oversaturated, getting aggravated cause I can't seem to get in line. But whatever happened to us changing lives. Nowadays everybody is exchanging knives. In the back, you watch them sneak attack their own partners just so they could get all of the shine. Gotta watch out for the snakes cause they in disguise. Yeah, they look you in your face and still tell you lies. Yeah, we caught up in a trance, see it in the eyes. Bird box, it feel like the whole world is hypnotized. With sex, power, fame, and all the moolah. Thinking that shit is gonna ease the pain, I know I'm foolish. Messed around and I done got in bed with the abuser. to the cover of my pain. I just go head to the jeweler, get chained up. My flaws got me all chained up. I can't get free if I keep my chains tucked. See my pop put his hands on my mama, know how pain look. I try my hardest not to give someone the same look. I've been forgave him, it don't matter how long change took. We levitate and letting Holy Spirit change us. We letting everything go, nothing contain us. Stay silent through all the doubt, you know I ain't budge. But now I can move through the sunshine and the rain. I can move through the heartache and the pain. I can move, we can get through anything. I can move through, yeah. I can move, I can move, I can move, I can move, I know I gotta move, yeah. I can't move, I can't move, I can't, yeah. But we go high, but we stay fly, but we don't die, 'cause we got Christ. You made all things new, yes, you made all things new, and I will follow you forward. Yes, sir. How you expect to be great, but your hustle don't match. Listen. I hustle overtime, attempt to push the culture forward. This that real shit, make a meal with that little gift. Everybody on a hustle, we can make a real shift. So keep your head up, youngin', and just keep on moving. And if you ain't hustling, then I don't know what you're doing. The time is now. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Yeah. I gotta write my story. No, you can't have my glory. I'm taking all that's for me. Unapologetic soul.
Hey, yo, man, we're back, man. It's your boy Marcus Stone, aka Hustle, man. We coming to you live from Globe Life Park, powered by Fishbone Radio Network and Bashani Radio app, man. And I gotta say that first hour was amazing, yo. But I'm glad that y'all still here and tuned in for the second hour. My guest today is none other than Miss Mary Tobin, man, and we have been going through a lot of information, a lot of nuggets. So if you're just now tuning in, make sure you go back and catch the replay. But Mary, let's jump back in. Yo, so welcome back to the hustle for sure on that. But I wanna take a little time. Let's talk about your current role in the Mission Continues and what that's about.
Yeah, so I am the executive director for the Eastern region of a national nonprofit called the Mission Continues. And essentially what the Mission Continues does is we train veterans to go back into their local communities and to support the operations and the people that are doing the amazing work to change generational poverty, to change and address violence, to address food insecurity, and all those societal ills that are impacting a lot of our under-resourced communities, right? So we do a lot of work in terms of community development. You'll see us working in everything from schools to shelters to harvesting food, especially now when food insecurity is such a prevalent problem in the country due to COVID and unemployment. And so I get a kick out of being able to do that in 26 cities, including Puerto Rico. So I lucked out in that respect, that Puerto Rico is a part of my purview. But we get to train hundreds of veterans each year, and we work with thousands of veterans every single year in communities all throughout the country. And so, I want to encourage any veterans who may be listening right now to find a local platoon in your city, right? And so these platoons are led by veterans and comprised of veterans and non-veterans in the community. And I mean, there are probably no less than 25 different projects happening right now since we've been on this podcast, and thousands of people are getting fed each week.
Wow.
Communities are being changed, and I'm so glad to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's big. You know, we served, for those that don't know, Mary and I served together over in Iraq, and you know, helping fellow veterans is definitely a passion, and there's a purpose in it, right? Oftentimes we get the recognition when we have the uniform on, but once it comes off, a lot of veterans often feel that they're forgotten, you know. And that's a hard stigma to break down, a hard paradigm to change as well, because it often leads to mental issues, insecurities, so on and so forth, right? That wreaks havoc on the veteran population. But just from a vantage point, the veteran population is already small. You know, to say that it is a volunteer service, there's no longer the drafting aspect, but the volunteer capacity of it, there's only 1 to 2% of the population that actually joins. That's not those that want to join and couldn't, but those that were actually able to and actually put forth the time and invested to become, whether it's a sailor, soldier, Marine, whatever the case may be, any service. So those numbers are critical. So for that small population to then feel like they're no longer valued is disheartening. So you will hear me and see on this platform the support for veterans in various capacities. One, because I am one. Two, because I see the struggle that a lot of them and a lot of our fellow service members go through. But it's organizations just like the Mission Continues that continue to shine the light on what is going on. So we can't forget about these individuals, and more importantly, we can't forget about the families, especially for those that, you know, for those service members that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So, Mary, how can individuals get offer assistance or become part of the platoons? Is there a website or social media handles that they can look up?
Absolutely. So we are on all the socials, and our name is The Mission Continues. You can also go to the website, which is www.missioncontinues.org, and you can literally go to a map and locate the platoon closest to you. And I love, you know, what you were talking about in terms of veterans finding a sense of purpose again and a sense of value. You know, there's been scientific research to show that when veterans tap into a sense of purpose as it relates to serving others, right? So especially in community service, then that has a positive impact on mental health and well-being, right? So I just know that I began with Mission Continues as a volunteer, and I did not know how much I missed the connectedness with other veterans, the sense of worth, right? That I brought a skill that was needed.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that this organization does is that it creates a sense of value based off of all the skills and experiences you've already had, right? So I know that there are many organizations that, you know, that I love, that I've benefited from, that really address the needs, the medical needs, and maybe even the financial and employment needs of a veteran, right? So I'm coming to you because I need something. We're asking veterans to come to the Mission Continues because you bring something. You have something to offer, and that communities and amazing communities and leaders who are doing the work to change these communities for the better, they need you too, right? And I often say, when you team up a veteran with a strong, resilient community that just needs a little extra push, magic happens.
Oh yeah.
And so I want to invite, you know, veterans and civilians, because we have families, kids are all over our projects, painting murals and helping us to, you know, to retread tracks and playgrounds, all of that. I'm asking everyone, you know, if you really want to get involved in this, to please come and know that you're coming because we already value what you bring. And, Worst case scenario, you're gonna get a little paint on your shirt, but you're gonna gain a family. And so, the Mission Continues is more than just a nonprofit organization. It is a family of people committed to a lifetime of service.
That's big. That's big. In the words of Mary Tobin, ladies and gentlemen, the mission continues. Definitely. So make sure that you go to all, follow them, like them, subscribe on all of the social platforms. But if you want to be involved, make sure you find that local platoon. If anything, just offer assistance. Even as they do the projects, you might see where they're doing something. Bring them a case of water or something. But be the change. Again, I can't say that any clearer. Be the change that you want to see in your community. And it starts with you. You have to change yourself in order to change the community. So we have to continue to look inward. What can I do more in order to bring the necessary changes that we desperately need in our communities? So let's be that X factor. Each one of us has it in us. So, but Mary, look, there's a lot of stuff that has been going on for years, but is even more prevalent now. And the clarion call seems like it has finally sounded loud enough for individuals to come together to fight for systemic change, to bring awareness to issues that have plagued our communities. I know that I have an interesting vantage point, and I would second that you have that similar vantage point as well, being that we both served, and that this movement is not about the flag.
Right.
This movement and this call is about what the flag is supposed to stand for, right? The reason why we fought, and why we put our lives on the line for people that we would not even, we would never meet everybody that we fought to serve, right? But we signed a contract to give our life for this country and for the people within it. But to then come home to that same country, and to have an instance where our life can be taken because of what we look like, or the stigmas and profiles that are associated with our skin color, is rampant in our communities. But I don't want to just shine light there, but there's blame in our communities as well, right? We have to take care of ourselves and stop doing it to ourselves, so that we can be and show the actual necessary what our worth is, right? We just can't continue to point the finger and we don't change anything within our communities. So help me. I mean, we haven't talked about it, so I'm eager to hear what you've seen in your community, things that you've done, actionable items that we may be able to take and bring to our community, so that we can see that change and see it change for the better.
Right. Yeah. So if ever worked for me, you'll know that I abide by the 3-for-1 rule, which means if you're bringing me one problem, you better bring me 3 solutions. And so my mind is wired to view every problem or challenge that I experience or we experience as a country through the lens of solutions, right? And so, I just, that's why when we look at the problems that are so persistent, especially in the Black community, it's very hard to see solutions because there's so many problems, right? There's so many challenges. And I think one of the things that I quickly learned especially when I was doing poverty work in Brooklyn, New York, some years ago, that even if you chose to address one issue, you had to address 3 more. So for instance, my role as an executive director of a nonprofit in Brooklyn, I was to address poverty, but I was to do so through bringing more employment opportunities to the community. Now, that was a community the particular community I worked in was labeled the 3rd most dangerous community in New York. It was the highest concentration of public housing in the country. The poverty was rampant, persistent, and had been there for decades.
Wow.
And so me coming in to have to address unemployment issues, I had my work cut out for me. One of the first things that I realized, what I found out was almost 65% of the young Black men in that community had some type of engagement or touch point with the justice system, meaning that they had been arrested. So they probably had a record. Now, that didn't mean that they necessarily had felonies, but it means that there was a record that followed them. And as it stands, the employment organizations who were working in that community to bring jobs to those young men and women who lived there, they were bringing mostly jobs that didn't hire people with records. So they would report out data to the media and other city agencies. We just can't find these poor Black folks a job. Well, look at the types of opportunities you're bringing. So I surveyed some of my partners, employment partners that I'm working with, and I said, hey, y'all need to bring me jobs where if I have a record, I can still get the job. They claimed they couldn't find any, right? So I said, I'm not working with you anymore. Wow. That was controversial because I was one of the largest, and when I say largest nonprofits, I mean the one with one of the larger checkbooks that worked in that community. And by me saying out loud, I don't want to work with you if you can't bring me jobs that people can actually get, it was controversial. They thought I was being arrogant. They thought I was, that I was going to fail. I found a particular partner who then brought seasonal and full-time jobs that would allow folks who had been incarcerated to at least on a probationary level get the job. I also created a program where we did those, we on the days of the job fairs, you came in early. We made sure that you were dressed properly. We redid your resumes. If you had to wait in line for hours, I would go and pick up pizza. We would feed folks. We would hold their places in line for job interviews so they can go get their kids. And when they brought their kids back to the community center, we would put them up in a room full of toys and coloring books, and I let them write all over my whiteboard.
Wow.
If you are trying to solve one problem, especially one of poverty built on systemic racism, then you can't get mad if you do that one thing and it doesn't work. It is systemic oppression. It is systemic poverty. So you better come up with a system to address it. And so my system was, if you come to my community center for looking for a job opportunity, you weren't just going to get a job opportunity. You were going to get support and access and help and encouragement and a safe place for your kids to play if you needed to. And that is, if I'm looking at solutions for how we address this, you can't just go in, my man, and say, I started a basketball program for these kids, but half my kids still won't get out of a game and they just don't want no help and we just don't want to be better. Nah, you're not only are you short-sighted, but you're arrogant in your assessment of the problem. Because if it took that young man everything to even make it to your practice, he doesn't have shoes for the practice. He's hungry because his guardian, whoever that may be, can't keep food in the house. He also takes care of his younger siblings every single day. And the only peace and respite he has is that 45 minutes with you. And the gang members who he encounters on the way back home, they give him money to feed his kids, his siblings. So now we criticize and critique each other through one lens when the problem is systemic and is complex. So shame on us for how we view our people and being intellectually lazy and working to solve the problem. So I get passionate about this because it took me revisiting my roots as an adult and as a leader to realize that I was even judging my people through the wrong lens. No, nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to be on drugs. You talk to the average drug dealer, they want a better way because they know that their end is jail or death.
Right.
They want a better way, but we got to show them a better way. And criticizing them from afar without providing real access to resources, real support that is sustainable, right? Now that's where we become elitist, right? I challenge, so everybody who says that, I go, man, when's the last time you spent some time in the hood, like really in the hood, and really took a look at the challenges that are happening there? Because I want you to be overwhelmed by the complexity, but I want you to tap into your gifts and figure out, okay, if I brought my gifts back to my people, what would that look like? And what other things should I be connected to? So that gift isn't either rejected or it is sustainable, right? It has to be sustainable. So that's just one example of what I've done. But, I'm making the overall point that, the problems are complex. Therefore, the solutions have to be complex.
And yeah, no, that's big in the fact that, I mean, this systemic stuff didn't happen overnight.
Right.
So it took a while to put it in place, and it's going to take even longer to dismantle it.
100%.
Right? But the objectives still remain the same, right?
Yeah.
We have to look at the situations from a different lens, and that lens starts with self.
Yes.
What can I bring to the table versus take away from the table, as opposed to, if I see a deficiency, bringing a solution or three solutions to what that deficiency is, versus just utilizing, oh, well, it'll never change. Well, of course, it'll never change if we don't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
So your voice has power, 100%. So you have to exercise the gifts and the platforms that you have, right? You influence what your circle is, right? So if you're tied to the hood, the ghetto, whatever term people want to use, or I often say the impoverished communities, if you're tied to that, how do you effectively change it? Well, you have to start with one, because we don't know, even a fire starts from a spark.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So we don't know what action is going to be the spark to change what we're looking to get changed, right? It's taken several deaths in our community to get to this point. We had the civil rights era, we had Jim Crow, all that stuff, to get to where we are now. Now we have to face with, how do we change the perception of individuals' minds, right? That my color is not a crime, right? So where I lived in these red line districts that were built, is not a crime, that I have something to bring to the table, and you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to listen to what I have great. What I present is better for everybody, not just for me, right? So how do we, and I guess I'm just asking questions because I like to be with like-minded individuals so I can improve myself. So how do we, one, come together in the aspect of what the current time presents us, right? Because the clarion call has been, as far as I can remember, the loudest as it's ever been. And the fact that it's still going on, right? The voice is still being shouted. We're still out there protesting. People are still looking to change laws, and it's still relevant, right? It hasn't died in the microwave society. What can we do to continue to push the cause forward, because it's needed, right? I don't want people to burn out in that aspect. What are some actionable things that you think, from your vantage point, that can be done in everybody's community?
Right. One, and I love that you keep returning to this notion of self. We first must believe and understand that we all have a role in the movement. We all have a role in the movement, regardless of race, color, creed, ethnicity, orientation, ability, age. We all have a role. So no one gets a pass. No one gets to sit out the movement. No one. Right? Because there was a old quote that says silence is consent. I would go a little bit further. Silence is dangerous and is deadly at this point, right? There must be, we must actively seek out what is our role in the movement, right? So I think, one of the misconceptions of the societal unrest and the change that you see happening right now is that it is the protesters that are, protesting is the way you make change. protesting is one leg
Absolutely.
of this movement. And what's happening is a lot of people, they're going, for whatever reason, if I don't protest, or if I did protest, or if I can't protest, right? Take me, I'm disabled. And so, you know, I can give you about 10, 15 minutes before I got to sit down every 15 seconds. Like,
right.
I'm not going to make the march, right?
Right.
Then people going to be mad at me. Like, they're going to call me a lazy marcher, right? But for me, it has taken me, once I get past like the selfishness of my guilt around the fact that I can't protest, then I'll realize it is my writing and it is my voice that is needed in this movement.
Yeah.
It is my thinking, because I'm a strategist. So I think in strategy. But if I'm not careful, I will allow myself to believe that the movement is only in protesting, not understanding that protesters, young people and old people who are out there in these streets doing this, they have their place. They are bringing awareness and
Absolutely.
fight and attention. So if they're bringing that part, what are the rest of us doing, right? And the answer can't just be voting. That the voting is the given, it's the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it that we're doing, right? So, you know, I have so many you know, white colleagues, white friends. I mean, you know, white people who I consider to be my family members, and you know,
right.
Spoke out, you know, text messages, calls everywhere. Mary, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I want to do something. And I'm like, okay, let me ask you a question. This first thing I said, hey, go to your company real quick and show me a picture of your executive leadership. Show me your board. Show me middle management. How many people on your teams are people of color,
right.
women, LGBTQ, disabled, like Muslim? Like, show me. And then it gets quiet quite often. And then I said, you want to know where to start? Start right there. And then it becomes really clear that, one, we have allowed these challenges to remain persistent. Like, Breonna Taylor doesn't just get killed randomly.
No.
She gets killed because of a broken or an unjust system. The system is not broken; it's operating exactly the way it's always supposed to operate. It is unjust. So this unjust system that can create this bogus warrant to go into a person of color's home and to kill that person of color, and for her killers to still remain free. That is an unjust system, but that is an unjust system perpetuated by racist cops, racist lawyers, racist judges, racist city council members, racist DA, all those things that perpetuate that system, right? So when we talk about how do we address you know, the social unrest and what do we do? Well, it starts in two places. It starts in your home. So white people, be bold enough to tell your racist grandfather and grandmother to stop saying the N-word at the table.
Absolutely.
Like do that first before you start a white fragility book clubs. Do that first. Tell your uncle that's a judge to stop giving young black males 4 to 5 years for marijuana possession and giving probation and community service to the little white boy.
Or
do
like,
that first.
Or like
right?
in Louisiana, the case where individual the Supreme Court, it was just they just stayed for stealing shears,
yes.
a life sentence.
Yes.
It wouldn't
hedge clippers.
Hedge clippers. Come on, man. A life sentence for hedge clippers?
So
some petty theft?
It starts there. It starts there. It starts with questioning and challenging the makeup, the leadership. I often say racism is a leadership challenge. Like, if I'm a leader of any organization, it is a part of my duty and my responsibility to ensure that I have diversity, but diversity of thought, as well as diversity of characteristics and personality and skills and competencies. Then it's also my job to ensure that the environment is inclusive, meaning just because I got a bunch of black people and Latinx people and, you know, you name it, people on my staff, where are they in leadership? Are they at the table making decisions? Do they have any power? And then equity, like, you know, do the people of color in my organization have access to the same opportunities and resources that the white folks in my organization have had for years. And hence why, the top 85% of the leadership of my organization is all white, and the bottom lower half of the organization, the ground pounders, the people at the bottom, they're all people of color, right? I have to ask myself why, and then I have to change that. If I have to change hiring practices,
right?
If I have to change how equal opportunity complaints are routed, if I have to change supply chains, like where are my products coming from? Is it all white people? Because I know some good people of color who can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Why doesn't my business utilize those same products and those same suppliers? We have to question every aspect of the system, so in order to make it equitable. But it literally starts in the home, it starts in our community, and it starts in our organizations, because the only way it makes sense to reply to somebody, like, how do we change things, is somebody just yells, vote, we gotta vote.
That's one piece. Yeah,
we keep saying that, but what if someone broke down to you, right, how important it is to vote for an assistant DA or your DA, because that is the person that controls whether or not Breonna Taylor's killers are brought to justice.
Absolutely.
Now all of a sudden I'm never forgetting to vote for the DA. Never. So I think a wonderful, and this may sound a little bit interesting, but a wonderful byproduct of this social unrest is we are becoming intimately familiar with the levels of leadership in our justice system,
in the process,
and their decision making, and how when we ignored that local election last year, we're now paying for it this year, right? So I think that there's this awakening, not just around we need to vote, but the importance of it, the impact of it. So when you have a local activist in St. Louis now, have a shot at becoming a congresswoman, and I mean, I'm sorry, maybe a senator. I might be getting that incorrect, but like, that's amazing. She went from protesting in the streets to now possibly being in Congress because she gets it and she understands, and it's because racism devastated her community, right? In Ferguson. So,
right.
It all works together.
No, it does, and it highlights the importance of why we need to be in tune with our communities and what's relevant to us, right? It speaks to the fact that if all I've ever known was that the world was a triangle, and and somebody proved me wrong that it is actually round, you have to be open to a broader perspective than just what you see with your two eyes. You have to have different trains of thought, different avenues of approach in order to get the full scope of what needs to take place. And that's why I try to vary what I allow people to pour into me, right? It's one thing to sit at the top of an organization and you forget what it was like to be the first person coming in the door, working on the assembly line, right? You can't forget the beginning and what it took to get to the top, and then become complacent and look at everybody, begin to look down on those that are now starting that journey, right? And I think that happens too often, one, in organizations, in communities, to where individuals make it out, so-called make it out metaphorically, to where they never look back to pull anybody out, right? And not I'll take that even further. I'm not even looking to pull anybody out. Why not just create what needs to be done there?
There you go.
You know what I mean? So that's the mindset that I have now. And I have to admittedly, I was like, I'm going to make it out, and I'm going to take everybody with me. You know what I mean? I'm going to pull you out of it, but at the same time, I've learned that actually fueled the process of gentrification.
Yes, it did.
You know what I mean? So, now we have this cheap land, this cheap buildings Now the ones that have and control majority of the money can go back and now make that a thriving community while pouring in to what we have moved to, which is the current thriving, and now rid that with drugs, laws that don't benefit us, tax, all of that stuff, to then keep that cycle going. So I am a firm believer that and now my mindset is to no longer, hey, I'm not pulling anybody out of anything. I'm strengthening what you currently have.
Yes, there it is.
Build your we're going to build the foundation there, because if I'm in one area and we get your community back up or our community back up, and now we have two areas. Now it becomes, it has that ripple effect to affect a lot more than just one community. It becomes the catalyst to change the world.
Right. Otherwise, we're just playing poverty musical chairs.
Absolutely.
I often say, we cured polio, put a man on the moon, but somehow we can't figure out how to improve the conditions of a community at the same rate that we improve the conditions of the people, and therefore avoid gentrification. I don't know. Like I contend that we as a society are just intellectually lazy, and or we just don't value the people that it impacts. And I'm often going with B.
Right.
You would have to value Black and brown people to want to not only improve their conditions, the conditions of the individual, but the conditions of the community as well. When you look at what makes a community a good community, quote unquote, you'll see access to transportation and healthcare and good education and employment opportunities that are accessible, and parks, say parks, and all the things, restaurants and grocery stores that are healthy or have access to healthy food. And if I can go down all the things that I just named for you and not find one check block and throw a dart at a map and find an under-resourced or underserved community, and I can just see X after X after X on the things that I just named that determine what makes a good community, then after a while I have to believe that it's intentional. Because if taxpayers fund education in schools, then why are schools in my communities the worst?
Absolutely.
If entrepreneurs get to determine, or large grocery store chain owners get to determine where their grocery stores are, and they don't have any in my community, and or they do, but it's the last grocery store on the chain, the supply chain. So all the fruit and vegetables that come to that grocery store are all spoiled and old. Absolutely. And they rot easy. Like, it is intentional, right? So, there's a, after a while and this speaks to your earlier point about, how do we make these changes in the community? After a while, we have to go upstream to where the problem is, right? So, I teach my mentees, and I've talked about this before in other places, the concept of the wrong order, where you are at a restaurant and someone brings you, your waiter or your waitress brings you an order of food, and it may be wrong. Right. And the first thing you want to do is catch an attitude with them. And I always say to my mentee, but who made the food? And they go, the cook. And I said, so who should you be talking to? And they go, the cook. And I go, okay, so let's say you go talk to the cook. And the cook goes, well, I made the order the way the order came in on the system. Right. And then I go, well, who controls the system? Well, the manager is the one that makes sure that it's okay. Well, then go talk to the manager. The manager goes, well, I try to upgrade the system, but the owner won't put in the money to upgrade the system so that the order won't get messed up. So I asked my mentee, who should you be talking to? And he goes, or she goes, I should be talking to the owner. Yes. So I'm no longer wasting my time condemning, arguing with, debating folks who can't control the system. Right. And so we as a people spend a lot of times hating each other and arguing with each other about problems that even on a good day, we can just make a slight dent in. We need to learn strategically to go upstream and talk to the owner, talk to the system owners, talk to those with power and influence, and strategically figure out where to apply pressure there. If it's money, let's apply pressure with the money. If it's reputation, let's apply pressure with the reputation. If it's all three or all both, let's do that. But our strategy is weak Hence why some of the changes we attempt to make aren't sustainable. I believe that much like the civil rights movement, which was all strategic, every city that was a boycott in, every march was strategic, like all, and this was all in tandem to Supreme Court cases, to local elections, to the James Baldwins of the world writing and being on TV and like trying to impact thought around the issue of civil rights and equal justice. These things were working, but they were strategic because Martin Luther King Jr., Bayard Rustin, A. Philip Randolph, the architects of the movement knew that it needed to be three-pronged, needed to be multi-pronged, and they knew that you couldn't just make some racist guy feel bad about being racist. You had to hit his pockets, but they did so in a way where he couldn't ignore it. Right. And so that's, I think, the next level boycott, of what we're doing now is strategy. So you ask, what do we do now? It's strategy. It is everything we do needs to have a strategy against it. It can't be, oh, Gucci, you put out something racist, nobody buy Gucci. Half of us can't afford Gucci. What is that doing?
Nothing.
Nothing. But who supplies Gucci's fabric? Where's that coming from?
Right.
Who's making the actual clothes?
Yeah.
It's probably not Gucci. It's probably a partner. And it's probably a partner that relies on Black and brown people to work there or some part of the supply chain.
Absolutely.
There's a way to apply this pressure. We just have to be smarter, And it's hard because there's a lot of emotion attached to all of this. So it's hard to see through your emotion to get to the strategy. But there are those of us like me who know my place in the movement, who go, Mary, don't yell at us just protesting. Put your brain into this. Figure this out, and then help empower and teach and motivate and encourage your people, right? Like, so that's why I love that you have just such a positive viewpoint on any problems that that we talk about, because that's the key, right? If I complain about it, then I better have some solutions about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't harp on the squeaking wheel and nobody's there to fix it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to get to the mechanic or somebody that's able to do it. Or if
100%,
there's no mechanic, then you need to figure it out. How do you do it? The wheels, tires, back in the automobile early ages went from being square to round.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was purpose behind that, right? So that's why we have what we have now. So for those of you just tuning in, man, it's your boy Marcus Stone, aka Hustle, man. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Park, powered by Fishbowl Radio Network and Bashani Radio app. My guest today has been none other than the incomparable Mary Tobin, who has been dropping gems for this whole 2 hours. And Mary, I gotta say, I appreciate you giving me time out of your day, my sister, and it has been definitely amazing. But I wanna give you a couple minutes just to any final thoughts to give to the listeners before we go ahead and close out.
Absolutely. If you know me, you know that James Baldwin is one of my heroes. And he has a quote, and I'll read it. It says, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." Right? So, when I think about our roles in society, if we want to see our society better, we have to make a demand of society, one that lives up to the ideals of liberty and justice for all. And in making that demand, we also have to realize that power will never just concede and give us what we want, give us our liberty and our justice without us fighting for it. Hence why we have heroes like Martin Luther King Jr.
Absolutely.
My hero like John Lewis, who just passed away, rest in power, who believed that we could be better and we should be better, so they fought for it. I want to leave, if nothing else in my life, I want to leave a legacy of, one, understanding how dope you are, right? We are amazing. We are great. We are unique, and we all have something to offer. And two, when you find that you're in any environment that does not recognize your greatness, that tries to give you less or sell you short, you fight for what you deserve. And you fight for it in the best ways possible in your uniqueness. And you leave something else for somebody else to build on, right? Because if we don't encourage someone else, inspire someone else to be the best version of themselves, then you have wasted your time here on earth. And all we will have of you is your epitaph, right? That dash in the middle where we sit there wondering, what could he have been? What could she have been? Well, I'm going to live my life answering that question for you. So when you are reading my epitaph, you go, man, she was a heck of a, and boy, didn't she do that. And I'm so glad that I can carry that baton, right? So that I can also make the world better. So I just want everybody to know that it is your job to be unapologetically dope, right? And while you are being unapologetically dope, make sure that you're always hustling and bringing the best version of yourself to the table, because the world needs you and I need you.
Man, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. Yo, so for those of you tuning in, hey, we appreciate you. Know that I love you. But I'm going to close with this. This is your hustle moment. So understand your why, right? And by doing this, you will create the fresh start to pursue a goal or a dream. It's this transformational change that occurs when these items are achieved. Don't place any additional shackles to your circumstances and life's journey. Create your destiny and fulfill your legacy's purpose, right? Simply, don't put any additional shackles on what your purpose is, because life will give you enough that you have to break through. So that's your hustle moment. Tune in next Saturday. Catch your boy. Until next time, we out of here.
Yes, sir. Yeah. They tell me all the time, Levi, what you got going on now? You always doing something. Always make work. I just tell them, how you expect to be great but your hustle don't match? Listen, the hustle unapologetic, can't help it, I'm built this way, it's probably in my genetics. Refuse to live my life in debt filled with all this bad credit. Been craving the sweet life just like I'm a diabetic. I'm too sick, so sick, I definitely need the paramedics. Almost that I can smell it. Some of y'all pathetic, you get the game but you never teach it. Nah, y'all never spread it, the difference between the fake and the real. See, I'ma tell it, only matter of time before I detonate. That greatness on another level, so I levitate. He may not come when you want, but no, he never late. They wonder why I shine, where you know what pressure makes. Everybody ain't diamonds, I see a lot of your flukes. You can tell you don't produce because your tree don't bear fruit. And if you ain't war ready, we will cut you loose. For soldiers around me, I need more than just combat boots. See, the hustle is real, I hustle for a change. It been a drought in my hood, I hustle to bring the rain. I hustle to bring my generation about them chains. I hustle to make sure my mama don't have work again. I hustle for my unborn son or daughter. Hustle in every quarter, hustle to rearrange the order of my people. See, we bout to take back every single thing we lost up in these borders. I hustle overtime, attempt to push the culture forward. It's that real shit, make a meal with that little gift. Everybody on a hustle, we can make a real shift. So keep your head up, youngin', and just keep on moving. And if you ain't hustling, then I don't know what you're doing. The time is now. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Yeah. I gotta write my story. No, you can't have my glory. I'm taking all that's for me.